Volume of rectangular prism notes. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what is a right prism. A right prism is a geometrical solid that has a polygon as its base and vertical sides perpendicular to the base. The base and the top surfaces are the same shape and size. So you could think of a rectangular prism as like a box. You could think of cylinders. Those types of things are prisms where the bases are the same shape and they have vertical sides. So a polygon is a many-sided shape like an octagon that has 8 sides, don't forget, and a hexagon which has 6 sides. Okay, so moving on to the next part. This link doesn't work, so don't worry about it on the video. Volume. So what is volume? Volume is the amount of liquid or solid that will fill a three-dimensional object. Okay, so thinking of like soda inside of a soda bottle, or milk inside of a milk jug, water inside of a cup. That's volume. Volume is the amount of liquid or solid that will fill a three-dimensional shape. Okay, and then volume always has the units cubed. So when we're thinking, just real quick, so a quick definition of a three-dimensional objects, they are not flat, no plano. They have 3 measurements. They have a length, they have a width, and they have a height. So for length, that is going to be used by an L in our formula. Width, we're going to use a W, and height is going to be an H. So length, width, height. So also in the PowerPoint, this link does not work, so please go ahead and don't worry about it. So since we know volume, which is what we're looking for, is the amount of space occupied by an object. So the volume of a cube is all the space contained by the sides of the cube measured in cube units. So here we have a three-dimensional cube. We have height, width, and length. So how do we find the volume? To calculate the volume of a prism, we first need to calculate the area of the base of the prism. And remember, to finding the area, you take the length times the width. So the first thing you're wanting to do is take the length times the width. The base of that shape, we want to find that area. So once we know the area of the base, then we multiply it by the height. So ultimately we're taking the length times the width, which gives us the base area, times the height. So think about that. It's length times width, which gives you that base, times height. Okay, so don't just multiply the numbers together, which is what we have a tendency to do. First, you want to find the area of the base and then multiply it by the height, because this will make finding the volume of other prisms much easier to learn. Okay, so here again, for a rectangular prism, for the volume, area of the base times the height, or length times width times height. So here we have a rectangular prism. The bases, the top and the bottom, are both rectangles. It's a three-dimensional shape. So to find the volume, we are identifying the length, the width, and the height. So we know this is the length, the width, and it really doesn't matter. Those can be either way. And then the height. So finding the area of the base, we're taking the length times the width, so 5 times 4 times the height. So height, width, length. Order of operations are both multiply, so we just work left to right. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 times 7 is 140. And our units are centimeters. And it's cubed because it's volume. So looking at how they did it, exact same way. And they came up with 140 centimeters just like us. So does it matter which side is the base? Not with a rectangular prism. So here they've got it turned differently. And they're using, this is the base. So they've got it turned on its side. So now you've got the height, the length, and the width. So they're using 7 times 4 times 5. So they've just turned the shape on its side. That's wrong way. So 7 times 4 is 28. 28 times 5 is still 140 centimeters cubed. Because whether you turn it on its side or you turn it upright, it's still going to fill with the same amount of liquid. Okay, so different types of rectangular prisms. Here are a few to look at. So remember, a rectangular prism is a solid figure that has 6 faces, so the faces like the side, that are all rectangles. So there are different types of prisms. This one, because all the sides are rectangles, it's a rectangular prism. Opposite faces are congruent. Remember, congruent, that doesn't work. Congruent means equal. Okay, so the faces are really all the sides of a box. So your faces are the sides of the prism. Okay, so like the top is a face, this side is a face, this end is a face, the back side is a face, the bottom, and then the other side. So 6 faces in a rectangular prism. Okay, cubes are also rectangular prism. So a cube is a solid figure that has 6 faces again, but instead of all rectangles, they are all squares. So a cube is a rectangular prism because it has 6 sides or 6 faces, but instead of some of them being rectangles, they're squares. So all the faces are congruent. Remember, congruent means equal. And this time they are parallel. So they never touch. This shape is classified as a rectangular prism because all the squares are technically rectangles. So cubes are rectangular prisms. So a Rubik's Cube, all sides are the same shape. Dice are also cubes. Okay, so let's try this for a second. Let's try a couple together. It says find the volume of a rectangular prism. Find the volume of a rectangular prism. So remember, volume is the length times the width times the height. Okay, so you just want to remember that these are really the area of the base. So identifying, here is our height, the length, and the width. So volume is length times width times height. Length is 12. Width, we said, was 2. And the height is 3. 12 times 2 is 24. 24 times 3 . So a volume of 72 millimeters cubed. Make sure you're trying these on scrap paper as we work through them, please. Okay, here's another one. Let's try together. If you would like, pause the video, try it on your own before we work it out. Length times width times height. Okay, let's label on here. This is our height. This is our width. And then length. So when I'm thinking about this base in the area, don't forget that the top and the bottom are the exact same shape. So just because this measurement is up here, we know that that's the same as down here. So that way, when we're finding the length times the width, the base area, we see it right there. So volume, length, we're using 4 times width times height. 4 times 3 is the area of the base. That was this, the 12, times 10. 12 times 10 is 120 in our units, inches cubed. Okay, go ahead and take a few minutes and try this one on your own. Find the volume of a rectangular prism. So volume is length times width times height. The height, the width, and the length. And again, we want the area of the base. And we know the top and the bottom are the same. So if this side is 11, we know this side is 11. So the length is 11 inches. So length is 11 times our width times our height. Area of the base is 99 times 40. And it's inches cubed. Okay, so this time we can see this is a cube. All three measurements are the same. So this rectangular prism is a cube. So again, same length times width times height. The height, how tall it is, the length, and the width. So area of the base first. So substitute, plugging in L, W, and H. Area of the base, we know is 64. 64 times 8. We come up with 512, and it's meters cubed. Good job. Okay, so another cube. Volume is length times width times height. Height, length, width. Find the area of the base first. So substitute our numbers. $25 times 5. 25 times 5 is 125 centimeters cubed. Okay, so taking these into word problems. A cereal box has a length of 8 inches. A width of 1 75/100 inches, and a height of 12 125/125 inches. How much cereal will the box hold? So we want to know how much it will fill. So we know we need volume. So we know length times width times height. So if you need to draw the box, which is not an easy task, if you were an artist like me. Okay, so length is 8 inches. Width is 1 75/100 inches. And height of 12 125 inches. Okay, so you could also just know that the L is going to be 8. The width is 1 75/100, and the height is 12 125/100. Finding the area of the base first. Just to speed it up, I'm going to use my calculator. 8 times 1 75/100 is 14. So the area of the base times the height. So the volume is 169 75/100 inches cubed. So it holds 169 and 75/100 inches of cereal if you filled it to the top, which we know doesn't always really happen. Okay, let's try another one. Alexia's bathroom has a tub in the shape of a rectangular prism. El baño tiene una bañera conforme in the shape of a rectangular prism. It has a length of 1.5 meters, a width of 0.5 meter, and a height of 4/10 meters. So think about the tub. Kind of looks like a box. We put a lid on it. Okay, how many cubic meters of water can it hold? So we know we're putting water in it. That's volume. So length times width times height. So again, the area of the base, so the length is 1.5. The width, look at that, letters line up, is 0.5 meter, and the height is 4/10 meter. So finding the area of the base first. Oops, it's a 5. Times 4/10. I should double check on my work. Is 3/10 of a meter cubed. I'm not sure if that's a lot of water or not. So we'll save this one for another day just because it's a little bit more challenging.